She thought she had married the man of her dreams. A perfect wedding, a romantic honeymoon in Florida, sunset walks on the beach, everything a newlywed could hope for. But on their fourth night together as husband and wife, she discovered something about him that shattered everything she believed. And 24 hours later, he was dead on that same beach, and she was covered in his blood. This is the true story of a honeymoon that turned into a nightmare, a secret that destroyed a marriage in days, and a crime that left investigators asking one haunting question: when does betrayal become murder? In June of 2019, 29-year-old Sarah Mitchell and 31-year-old Michael Chen stood at the altar in Sacramento, California, surrounded by family and friends. They had met 2 years earlier at a marketing conference, fallen in love quickly, and their relationship seemed like something out of a romantic movie. Michael was charming, successful, attentive. Sarah was vibrant, ambitious, deeply in love. Their wedding was beautiful. Their honeymoon destination was a secluded resort in the Florida Keys, a place where turquoise waters meet white sand, where couples go to celebrate new beginnings. But for Sarah and Michael, this trip would mark an ending instead, one that neither of them could have predicted when they boarded that plane holding hands and dreaming of their future together. The first 3 days of their honeymoon were exactly what you would expect. They posted photos on social media, had candlelit dinners by the ocean, spent lazy afternoons exploring the resort. But on the fourth night, something changed. Sarah would later tell investigators that she had been feeling uneasy, that Michael had been acting strangely, disappearing into the bathroom for long periods, being evasive when she asked simple questions. That night, while Michael was in the shower, Sarah's phone buzzed with a notification. It was a message from an unknown number, a single line that made no sense to her at first. "Does he know that you know?" Confused, she opened Michael's laptop, which he had left on the bed. What she found in his browsing history and saved documents would change everything. Medical records, transition timelines. Photos from years before that showed someone she didn't recognize, someone who looked like Michael but wasn't quite Michael. And then she understood. Her husband had been assigned female at birth. He was a transgender man. And he had never told her. Sarah sat frozen on the edge of the bed, her hands shaking, her mind racing through every conversation they had ever had, every moment of their relationship, trying to understand how this could be true, how the person she thought she knew better than anyone could have hidden something so fundamental about who he was. Before we go deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. When Michael stepped out of the bathroom wrapped in a towel, he found Sarah sitting there with his laptop open, tears streaming down her face. The look in her eyes told him everything. He knew she knew. What happened next, according to Sarah's later testimony, was hours of back-and-forth confrontation that grew increasingly heated. Michael tried to explain that he had wanted to tell her, that he had been afraid, that his identity was complicated, and he had thought that if she loved him, it wouldn't matter. Sarah felt betrayed in a way she couldn't articulate. It wasn't about his gender identity itself, she would later claim. It was about the deception, the fact that he had let her marry him without knowing the full truth, the feeling that their entire relationship had been built on a foundation of lies. They argued through the night. By morning, neither had slept. They decided to go for a walk on the beach to clear their heads, to try to talk somewhere neutral. It was just after dawn. The beach was empty except for a few joggers in the distance. Witnesses would later report hearing raised voices near the water, seeing a couple who seemed to be in the middle of an intense argument. One jogger said she saw the woman push the man, saw him stumble backward. Another said he heard the woman screaming something about trust and lies, but no one saw exactly what happened next. No one saw the moment when Sarah picked up a piece of driftwood from the sand. No one saw her swing it at Michael's head with enough force to knock him to the ground. And no one saw her continue to strike him, again and again, even after he had stopped moving. If this story is keeping you on edge, drop a comment below with the word justice, and let us know what you're thinking so far. Are you still with us? It was a morning jogger who found them. Michael's body lay crumpled at the edge of the surf, waves washing over his feet, blood mixing with seawater in the sand. Sarah sat a few feet away, the piece of driftwood still in her hands, her eyes vacant and staring at nothing. The jogger called 911, and within minutes the beach was swarming with police, paramedics, crime scene investigators. Michael was pronounced dead at the scene. Sarah was taken into custody without resistance. She didn't say a word as they put her in handcuffs, didn't react as they led her away from her husband's body. At the police station, Detective Maria Rodriguez conducted the initial interview. Sarah's clothes were still spattered with blood. Her hands were scraped and bruised. And when she finally spoke, her voice was flat, emotionless, as if she were describing something that had happened to someone else. She told the detective everything: the discovery on the laptop, the argument that lasted all night, the walk on the beach, the moment when something inside her just snapped. She said she couldn't remember picking up the driftwood. She couldn't remember hitting him the first time. But she remembered the sound it made. She remembered not being able to stop. She remembered thinking that if she hit him enough times, maybe she could erase the lie, erase the betrayal, erase the feeling that her entire life had become something she didn't recognize. Detective Rodriguez had been in law enforcement for 15 years and had investigated dozens of murders, but this case was different. The motive wasn't money or jealousy in the traditional sense. It was something more complex, something that touched on issues of identity, trust, disclosure, and the question of what we owe the people we claim to love. Sarah Mitchell was charged with second-degree murder. Her defense attorney argued that she had been in a state of extreme emotional disturbance, that the discovery of her husband's hidden past had triggered a psychological break. The prosecution argued that regardless of her emotional state, she had made a choice to kill, that she had continued to strike Michael even after he was incapacitated, that this was not self-defense, but an act of rage. The case sparked intense debate across the country. Some people sympathized with Sarah, arguing that Michael's failure to disclose his transgender identity before marriage was a profound betrayal that could drive anyone to extreme actions. Others pointed out that being transgender is not a crime, that Michael had every right to privacy about his medical history, and that nothing, no amount of betrayal, justifies taking another person's life. The trial lasted 3 weeks. In the end, Sarah was convicted of voluntary manslaughter and sentenced to 12 years in prison. Michael's family released a statement saying that he had been a kind, loving person who had struggled his entire life to be accepted for who he was, and that his death was a tragedy that should never have happened. Sarah's family maintained that she was not a murderer, that she was a victim herself, someone who had been manipulated and deceived. 2 years later, Sarah sits in a Florida correctional facility, and in rare interviews she maintains that she never meant to kill Michael, that she loved him, that she wishes she could take back those few minutes on the beach that destroyed both of their lives. So here's the question we're left with. Was this a crime born purely from rage and betrayal, or does it reveal something deeper about how we navigate truth, identity, and trust in our most intimate relationships? When someone hides a fundamental part of who they are, what responsibility do they bear for the consequences? And when we discover we've been deceived by someone we love, where is the line between understandable anger and unforgivable violence? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story made you think, made you question, made you feel something, subscribe to our channel for more true stories that challenge everything you think you know about human nature, love, and the moments that change lives forever.